It was a cold March night in the small town of Fairview, Virginia, when everything changed for Clara Thompson, a 17-year-old girl driving home from her evening class. The streets were quiet, the kind of quiet that blankets a working-class neighborhood after 10 p.m. Clara, behind the wheel of her mom's old sedan, had just fixed its flickering headlight. As she eased through a yellow light at an empty intersection, red and blue flashes erupted behind her. A patrol car, sirens off, screeched to a halt, blocking her path. Two officers stepped out, their faces hard, eyes cold. Clara's heart raced. She hadn't done anything wrong. "You ran a red light." The taller officer barked, his voice like gravel. "Think the rules don't apply to you at night?" Clara, hands trembling on the wheel, tried to stay calm. "Sir, it was yellow when I crossed," she said softly. The shorter officer leaned in, his breath close, his words sharp. "Black kids talk back now, huh?" Before she could process the venom in his tone, her car door was yanked open. Rough hands grabbed her, pulling her out with such force her arm burned. Handcuffs bit into her wrists. "Resisting, are you?" one growled, though she hadn't moved an inch to fight back. Then came the blow of fist to her cheek, slamming her face against the car door. Another hit followed, and her head was shoved down, meeting the pavement with a sickening thud. Blood trickled from her lip, warm and humiliating. "I didn't do anything," Clara gasped, her voice breaking, but the officers didn't stop. One sneered, "Bet she'll shut up now." The other laughed, a cruel chuckle that echoed in the empty street. They didn't hide their faces, didn't fear the street cameras. To them, Clara was just another black girl in a poor neighborhood, a story that wouldn't make the evening news. But they didn't know who Clara's father was. James Thompson, a retired Navy SEAL, had once dismantled a terror cell in silence, his movements precise, his resolve unbreakable. At 11:42 p.m., his phone rang, shattering the haze of a basketball game on TV. "Mr. Thompson, this is Officer Mendez from Fairview PD," a voice said. "Your daughter Clara was assaulted during a traffic stop. She's at Memorial Hospital." The words hit like a bullet. James didn't scream or curse. He grabbed his coat, keys, and drove, every red light a blur, every turn a step closer to his daughter. The police had touched his child. Politeness was no longer an option. At the hospital, James found Clara on a stretcher under a harsh street lamp, her face unrecognizable, bruised, swollen, blood matting her braids. Her wrist bore deep cuff marks, her eyes barely open. "They laughed, Dad," she whispered, her voice frail but piercing. "They laughed." James squeezed her hand, his silence louder than any rage. He'd seen war, read torture reports, but nothing prepared him for Thiza, 17-year-old girl broken by those sworn to protect. This wasn't just about Clara anymore. This was war. James didn't go home. He drove to a forgotten industrial park, a place he knew from his SEAL days, where shadows hid secrets. There, in a dusty shed, he uncovered a locked chest, a combat dagger, a coded notebook, a titanium watch still ticking from missions long past. He dialed a number from memory, no name, just digits. "She dead?" a gruff voice answered. "Not yet," James replied. "But someone will be." The voice didn't hesitate. "Send coordinates." "I'm coming." That was Marcus, a former teammate, a tech genius who could crack any system. They set up in an abandoned office, blacked out windows, standalone servers, no trace to the outside world. Marcus hacked into Fairview PD's system, pulling patrol logs, body cam data, and incident reports. What they found wasn't one mistake, but a pattern. 17 cases, all people of color, all with camera malfunctions, an identical wording subject displayed noncompliance. Two names kept appearing, Officers Reynolds and Carter. A buried video fragment showed Clara reaching for her wallet, calm, no resistance, before a fist struck her face. The truth was clear. This wasn't an accident. It was protocol. James didn't stop at evidence. He needed to expose the system itself. With help from Ellen, a retired police records officer who'd seen too many cover-ups, they mapped the department's inner workings. Ellen handed over a 2019 blueprint, color-coded, showing who controlled data, who erased logs, who protected the guilty. "Don't cut branches," she said. "Break the root." James and Marcus devised a trap. A fake message leaked through old channels, claiming Ellen had damning records. They set up in House Zero, An abandoned home in a forgotten lot, wired with hidden mics and cameras. Reynolds and Carter took the bait, arriving with Dominic Lane, a former driver for the police chief. Inside, they thought they were intimidating Ellen, threatening her son, admitting to Clara as number 12, an easy target. Every word was recorded, streamed live to the FBI. James watched from upstairs, his hand steady on the camera switch. When Reynolds reached for a gun, James moved like lightning, disarming him, pinning him down. "You're alive because I chose it," he said, his voice cold as steel. "But you'll carry this fear forever." The recording hit an anonymous platform at dawn. Within hours, it spread like wildfire: 10,000 shares, then 1,000,000. The headline was simple: "What police say when they think no one's listening." Reynolds' voice, smug and unrepentant. "Clara was number 12. We handled it." Lane's chilling calm. "This city runs on silence." The nation erupted. Talk shows dissected the culture of cover-ups. Students at Clara's school held signs. "Clara's my friend, not a statistic." A black student's video went viral. "If the system silences us to survive, it's already dead." Chief Whitaker's press conference was a disaster. His mechanical denial, "We're evaluating the recording," lacked remorse, fueling outrage. Reporters pressed, "Is Clara, a 17-year-old, beaten bloody, a technical error?" His silence spoke louder than words. Reynolds and Lane were sidelined, not charged, but the FBI launched a probe. Fairview PD's mask was off. Clara, meanwhile, faced her own battle. In an empty lot, she sat behind the wheel again, her hands shaking but resolute. Marcus watched silently as she drove slow laps, reclaiming the road that had betrayed her. Each turn was a defiance, each mile a refusal to let that night define her. At home, James placed a worn seal coin on the table. "You didn't survive because they let you," he said. "You survived because you refused to fall." Clara nodded, her fingers tracing the eagle and anchor. "I'm not a soldier," she said, "but I won't let them name me victim." The system cracked. Federal investigations exposed a network of silence, with 17 cases reopened. Reynolds and Lane faced charges, not just for Clara, but for a pattern of violence. Whitaker resigned, his legacy in ruins. Clara drove past the intersection where it all began, her gaze steady, no longer flinching at red lights. James walked beside her, not ahead, trusting her strength. The story didn't end with handcuffs or headlines. It ended with a father and daughter, sitting quietly, knowing they'd forced a city to listen. Clara wasn't a statistic. She was a force, and Fairview would never forget. What do you think? Should silence protect a broken system, or should voices like Clara's tear it down? Share your thoughts below. Have you seen injustice like this? Where do you stand on fighting back? Let's hear your perspective.